Yeah, she was an amazing person.
It doesn't matter what somebody does wrong, nobody deserves to die like that.
Welcome to The Grave Truth, Season 1, Episode 1. I'm your host, Jessica Eckert. The Grave Truth is a true crime podcast that focuses on cold case crimes. The Grave Truth is produced by Jessica Eckert. Huge shout out to Steve Varner for amazing music. This episode may contain content which could be distressing and is not appropriate for children. Listener discretion is advised. It was a cold day in March of 2017. There I sat, 35 years old, not quite sure what to do with my life. I had always felt the need to help others. I had considered doctor, social worker, even life flight nurse. I had worked as an EMT for a while and I loved every moment of it. Needless to say, my career took off in a different direction. This was fine, however, the nagging feeling of needing to do more always sat in the back of my mind. So during this night in March, I realized that people who are alive are not the only ones who may need help. Those who have lost their life have no voice, and many of them still need one. So many brutal crimes take place each day. Well, if I can help just one, I feel my calling would be answered. That's when I realized how I could put to rest this feeling I still have. I want to research cold cases, ones that I personally feel have not received enough attention from the public. Okay, so where to start? I could start a podcast, also a YouTube channel. All I need is a website and connection to every social media platform known to man. That's a good way to start. As I began, I knew this would not be an easy task. Not only did I know nothing about journalism, I also knew nothing about how to research cold case crimes. The one thing I had going for me is fearlessness. Let's just say I'm not shy and I am not afraid to ask for help. So now that I've begun, I want you to understand not only how I feel, but how these people with no voice have felt. I ask myself the question, why are people so obsessed with true crime? Why do they watch the TV shows, listen to the podcasts, and watch the news? I believe this is because people who have lost their life to crime have gone through something unimaginable. Imagine receiving flowers or buying a new puppy. Probably pretty easy. Now, if I told you to imagine someone being sliced open by a psychopath with the look of murder in his eyes, not so easy, right? Sure, you may have seen reenactments on TV, but nobody except for the criminals and victims really know what it's like to be there, to witness these actions, and to feel this pain. So, in a small attempt to soothe our intrigue without actually suffering, we watch and listen to as much true crime documentaries as possible. For some, it might be a learning experience, learning ways to protect ourselves and our loved ones, an attempt to reach as close as possible to the thoughts of a psychopath to understand what we need to do in order to be protected. And perhaps the most morbid reason of all could be the possibility of a killer or potential killer themselves learning what should and should not be done in order to prevent getting caught, or watching for the thrill. It's sick to think of this, however, it's been known to happen. After choosing my story and after informing those around me of my intent, the fear set in for potential attacks or harassment.
What if someone comes after you?
This ain't a movie. There are a lot of bad people out there that don't want to go to jail, and they'll do anything to make sure that they don't.
I read an article one time about this true crime reporter, and she was doing kind of the same thing that you are, investigating cold cases and things of that nature. They found her dead, and they ended up ruling her death a homicide. I mean, that doesn't scare you?
Those are some of my friends. My simple answer to their question is, well, no. If myself or anyone in this world let fear take over, there would be no heroic tales of firefighters rescuing children from burning buildings, or police saving a hostage victim, or even the person at the restaurant who saved another person from choking. Fear is just not an option. Not for those trying to save a life, and certainly not for me. Since the idea came up, quitting was never an option. While investigating this case, the specifics of which I will explain in a moment, I have found a community also gripped in fear, afraid that the person who committed this crime could be right around the corner and come after them next. My personal opinion is to urge the community to not be afraid. Send this person or persons responsible crippled into a fear of their own, a fear that they should have had for many years now. I urge you to let them know that they can no longer scare you. I urge you to let them know that they are and will be on the radar of many people until the truth comes out, and that they can no longer scare you. As a community that may not exist anymore, you will now and forever be attached by this tragic event, so band together to bring justice to a member of the same community that will always hold a piece of your heart. What will this take? Well, it'll take returning to one of the worst moments in your life and reliving it continuously. But that already happens, doesn't it? For anyone connected to this case, whether you do subconsciously or not, I'm positive it happens. The name, the flashbacks, and the memories never truly subside, do they? I want to take a moment to let you hear some of the emotion that still surrounds this case an entire 21 years later.
And yeah, like I'm having anxiety even just thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Breathe, I'm sorry.
yeah. And
Kim would never have given up if it was one of us. She needs to rest in peace.
This season revolves around the mysterious death of Kimberly Yo, a beautiful, energetic woman whose life was taken in a horrific way. We will discover together her past, the good and the bad, her lifestyle, her personality, and the events leading up to her death. We will dive deep into the specifics of her last moments on earth and her death. Some of it will not be pretty, but the truth is not always pretty. If you are not one for details, this is not the podcast for you. I feel each detail is important to know in order to help find the person responsible. Rather than diving directly into the case, I would like to take a moment for you to get to know me and Kimberly. I feel this is just as important as anything that will be talked about during this season. This may seem like nothing but word vomit to you, me just trying to fill airtime, but trust me, it's important. About myself. I went to high school in Pennsylvania, in a small town that consumed less than a 3 square mile area along the banks of the Susquehanna River. The quaint proximity of the high school to the post office to the municipal building along our town's one and only main street didn't leave much room for a vibrant teenage social scene. In middle school, most kids spent their Friday nights at the local roller skating rink. Often not roller skating at all, but instead drinking too many red slushies, arranging to ask out so-and-so, and engaging in the standard preteen drama. However, by the time high school rolled around, our beloved skating rink had been taken over by new preteens, a whole new wave of drama, and we were left to our own devices. For myself, it was the thrill of a mystery that called me. My main accomplice during this time was my best friend still to this day, Sarah. We would conjecture at long length about any number of strange happenings, even if they weren't truly strange at all. I can recall an office building not far down the highway from our homes where we noticed a car parked in the exact same spot night after night. We spun numerous tales about what must have happened to the driver. Was he abducted? Did he park his car, climb the wooded hill behind the building to the railroad tracks and hop a train? We dared each other a time or two to take a peek through the car windows, but neither of us ever did. And then one night, the car was gone. Mystery not quite solved, but definitely over. On to the next. Now, 20 years later, Sarah nor I still live in that sleepy little town where we grew up, but the siren call of a mystery at hand is still undeniable. So when I decided to create a new podcast series, the mission was clear: to seek out true mysteries, the kind that change people's lives forever, and tell their stories to the world. Perhaps I'll assist in solving some, perhaps I won't. But I will seek to speak the truth for those who may no longer have a voice. Kimberly's case does take us back to family, back to our high school years, back to that collection of small Pennsylvania towns along the Susquehanna River. The reason I chose this case was because I knew Kimberly personally. She was my cousin's best friend and lived right up the street from her. My childhood was spent almost every Sunday at my cousin's home, and almost every Friday night being the tag-along at the local roller skating rink. Kimberly, or Kimmy as her friends referred to her, was there for several moments of that time as well. I remember her fondly, although I was young. She was outgoing, kind, and very fun to be around. She was your typical young person, cracking jokes at whatever came her way and always looking for adventure. To explain Kimmy's past and character, I feel someone who had a strong connection with Kimmy would be best. I spoke with Kimmy's friend Rachel, yes, my cousin, and she had this to say about Kimmy.
Living without one of my closest friends for more than half of my life has been hard, to say the least. Like part of me is missing. No matter what has happened, I can still close my eyes and the memories come flowing as fast as the tears do down my cheeks. I can vividly go down memory lane that leads me first to the roads of the mobile home park that we grew up in with many other of our childhood friends. From riding our Huffy bikes during the hot summer days in our bright-colored swimming suits, through the neighbors' sprinkler systems, to standing at the bus stop waiting to go to school, chatting about, the things that girls chat about. All of us kids were like our own little family that grew up in that trailer park. Most of us still are. We are just missing one piece, and that's Kimmy. Kimmy was always one of those people that could get you to smile on the gloomiest days of your life. She loved to be heard. I remember us as preteens having a club called the Pink Ladies, and yes, from the movie Grease, in the little metal shed that stood in the back of my yard. She was one of the leaders because she loved to be in charge and loved to hear her own voice. She was herself no matter what other people thought. In middle school, she followed her brother's choices of music, listening to hair bands such as Motley Crue and Skid Row. She always sported tight stonewashed jeans with different band t-shirts. Along with this style came the big 80s hair. Kim, along with one of our other close friends, were nominated Biggest Hair in their 8th grade yearbook. Aquanet and a blow dryer were a must for her at this time. Once we were both in high school, which was her sophomore year because she was a year ahead of me, she took me under her wing. During these years, things started to change with her. She started to listen to R&B and rap music, such as Keith Sweat and Da Brat. She started to wear baggy jeans and bright-colored tops. Kimmy loved to stand out with her hairstyles and dark makeup. She always made her dark shades of lipstick and her hoop earrings coordinate with her outfit. This was an ongoing joke between us. I called her the round-the-way girl, as LL Cool J used to sing about. She was into sports at this time, too, especially basketball. I remember she had a Michael Jordan poster hanging above her bed. Her love for sports became important in my life for a reason so very close to my heart. My dad, who Kimmy was very close to, became terminally ill during our high school years. there were times that Kim would sit with my dad and my baby brother while my mom and I either had to work or had other responsibilities to handle. My dad and her would watch game after game of baseball, basketball, and even football, whatever made my dad comfortable. She didn't mind one bit helping out. She never complained. That's what I loved about her the most. When she knew you needed her for anything, she was always there with her beautiful smile and eyes to comfort you. Family meant so much to her. She had a respect for her parents like no other. As most teens and young adults, our parents may not have thought we had it in us, but behind closed doors and private conversations, she made it very known how much she loved them as well as her siblings. She was very proud of them. I remember how proud she was to find out she was going to become an aunt for the very first time. She loved going to family barbecues and during the holidays to family gatherings as well. I remember tagging along to many of these events, as she did with my family, too. In my family, she was just considered part of us. Kim was one of the most selfless people I have ever known. She would do anything to make those around her happy. Her smile was contagious and unforgettable, as are the memories that any of us that had the pleasure of sharing any part of our life with her will always have. One sweet day, my friend, I will meet you again.
The scariest part of this story to me is that I never recognized how alike Kimmy and I would become. It led me to have an emotional connection to Kimmy in ways I could never imagine. This is now not an investigation for me, but a journey to help someone I now have a bond with. During this season, you will learn that the actions Kimmy took that potentially led to her death were like many 20-year-old women's actions. So how is it that we are here today and she is not? Was it just extremely good luck for us, or was she unfortunate to have chosen the wrong people to allow in her life? I cannot express enough what hell this girl went through in the last moments of her life. So why should the person or people who did this to her be allowed to live, feel breath in their lungs, and enjoy life? Simple answer, they shouldn't. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of The Grave Truth. If you have any information on the homicide of Kimberly Yo, you can call 1-800-4PA-TIPS. That's 1-800-4PA-TIPS. You can contact me at any time through email at jessica@gravetruthpodcast.com or call area code 724-568-7884. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any information on any homicides or missing persons cases, please don't hesitate to reach out to your local authorities. Even if you think it's nothing, it could always be something. Also, if you like this podcast and you'd like it to continue, please donate to www.paypal.me/Grave Truth Podcast. This will help us continue by helping us travel to interest points, upgrade equipment, and purchase documents related to the case, which can be quite expensive. Even a donation of only a few dollars can help us continue. Next time on The Grave Truth.
So was there ever a missing persons report filled out?
I know that we all noticed that she was gone, and I know that her parents definitely knew she hadn't contacted anybody at that time. So I do believe that the police were notified after a few days of her being gone.